with password management as a service. Last year alone, over 1 billion passwords were stolen in more than 1,500 data breaches, which resulted in nearly 50% of adults having personal information exposed. How does that happen? 70% of people use the same password across multiple, if not all, of their applications and services. And 50% of people never use special characters to strengthen their password. You're invested in firewalls, antivirus programs, spam filtering, and backup disaster recovery tools. But have you considered the first line of defense beyond these security measures? Passwords are mandatory to protect your applications, services, and devices. In fact, the average person has 19 logins for various applications and services. The difficulty of remembering and entering strong passwords tends to put people off creating them. But fortunately, our password management as a service offering makes it simple to organize, store, and use strong passwords. The benefits of our password management as a service are clear. Ease of use. Your staff can reset their own login passwords without needing to call the help desk. Increased productivity. Your staff will save time by using one-click logins rather than trying to remember and type in passwords throughout the day. A great ROI. Time wasted trying to find, remember, or reset and input passwords costs an average of $200 per employee each year without a password management solution. Unsurpassed peace of mind. Your staff will easily use unique complex passwords for each service, which greatly decreases the likelihood of a breach. Take security to the next level with our password management as a service. Give us a call or send us an email for more information.
Hello, and welcome to Network Concepts Security Tip. New quarter, new password. It's a wise idea to follow the calendar year when changing passwords to your online sites, financial sites, and computer systems. We recommend you change these passwords at least once every 3 months. It's also important you don't reuse passwords or use the same passwords for 2 different resources. If your social media account gets hacked, you don't want the attacker to also be able to gain access to your Amazon.com and banking accounts simply because you use the same passwords for both sites. Maintaining separate passwords is a lot of work, but the cyber society we live in demands it. A good password will be composed of both lowercase and capital letters, numbers, and symbols. Passwords for various sites should always be different, but they can be similar. You may use this for Site A and this for Site B. Need help in developing strong password policies? Give us a call and we'll be happy to help. I'm Dave Kiersnowski, and this has been another Security Tip.
He's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. He thinks at every subject in unreal time. Probing every sentence and all your punctuation. Got his nose in every colon in every situation. He's the Gmail man.
Zucchini, volcano, lava, birthday, thanks, polar bears.
Hey, mailman, are you looking at our mail?
No, I'm trying to look at your mail, but that sound you're making is distracting.
How can you do that?
Well, sometimes when a person really loves their Gmail very, very much, the two get together and an ad is born.
Ew! You can't do that, mailman.
Of course I can. I'm not a mailman. I'm the Gmail man.
Gmail man.
Good morning, senders and receivers. Carolyn Johnson, get up off of that painful itching and burning of yours and come check this out. A little relief there? Probably feels good, right?
No, what, have you been reading my mail?
With Contoso Limited in it, you know, it's
for certain keywords,
that's what they use in all the examples
burning
and all their trainings and all
sensations, scat, and dander. Good news is there's an ointment for 4 out of 4 of those, brought to you by Pharmaceutico. Would you like a free 2-week trial?
No, actually I wouldn't, because I was actually writing about a lasagna. I was afraid of burning, and my husband said it was sensational. I have a cat named Andy, but it's really actually none of your business.
It's my business, your business. It's all business. It's the business of advertising, personalized for whatever you're Gmailing or for whatever we think you're Gmailing.
Is that even ethical?
Ethical. I can tell you with the utmost confidence, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Gmail Man.
So look who it is, Peter Confidential Schmonfidential Waxman.
What's that supposed to mean?
Oh, it seems that you have a certain love of words like secret and confidential, strangely paired with the forward button.
Are you accusing me of sharing secret company emails?
I believe that I am. Consider an exciting career as a secretary. Learn valuable secretarial skills. Secretaries.
Man, you're not only nosy, you're also kind of lame.
Well, when you peek and skim as many keywords as I do, sometimes you can be a smidge off. Speaking of which, I am off.
You're off your fucking nut.
Ooh, start typing words in like that and I'll have you up to your eyeballs in adult content offers. Good day, Peter _ Waxman.
Good day, underwhelming mailman.
Gmail Man. All the lawyers told us that we had to sing, that he's a walking, talking metaphor of a real thing. A system that plugs keywords from mail that starts with G, that fills you up with ads for shit that you don't need. He's the Gmail Man.
A lot of those videos are going to have a lot to do with what we're going to talk about, so it's kind of interesting. I'm going to get started because we have a lot to cover today. We had a lot more people register, so I don't know if people are going to come, but I was thinking about, up till last week, outsourcing this to one of the vendors, and we decided not to because we're changing the way we're doing everything next year, starting with this seminar. You can see that the names of the seminars have changed, and it's because a lot of you guys right now, and a lot of you guys are sending it to us, is the insurance companies are starting to have you fill out forms regarding to networking, security and compliance, and cybersecurity and compliance. So we're going to switch this to a quarterly training seminar, because it asks you flat out on these forms, what are you doing for training? It asks on both of them. Also, the one video with Dave in it, we haven't finalized that, but that's going to be something that we're going to be releasing for free, because it specifically says, what are you doing for your employees for training? So we're going to try to work that into everything as far as how we're structuring ourselves around you guys. So people are still coming in, so I'm going to give them a couple more minutes, but I kind of wanted to give you a background, especially the Gmail Man background, because we're going to talk about that later. The passportal stuff is huge. We're going to talk about that specifically where it's in the news now with Colin Powell and John Podesta. So a lot of those videos are stuff that we're doing here to kind of help you guys out. So I guess this is our first, we're actually going to post the last seminar too on security. So you guys, we weren't going to do that, but we're going to post all these things and have them recorded. The last one's good. I think it might be up now that you guys can watch it and register it, but right now we're going to do once a quarter training seminars. So we weren't going to release them unless you registered, but we're just going to release them no matter what, so you guys can look at it. So this is going to be our Q4. Like I said, the name's changed. So we're changing the name to Business Seminar Annual Training. We added the annual training because that's specifically the words that are used in all of the insurance company forms. But we're going to do this once a quarter. So this will be mobile and cloud computing. I don't do a lot of these things, and anybody here that knows me knows that I don't like to come up here and do these things. We did 11 events this year. I did 3 of them. I did the internet marketing one because it's very, very complicated. And we really feel that the internet is misunderstood by a lot of you guys on how to use it to build your business. So I did that one. Not that I'm a marketing guy, but I know a lot about the internet. I was around when the internet was born. I know how it works. I know all the back ends of it. I did the security one. I have a security background. The security one was easy for me. It's just very technical. So you got internet marketing that was complicated. The security one was extremely technical. Anybody that went to that, and like I said, that's my background. I like doing it, and people answer questions. This one, I kind of got stuck with, and like I said earlier, we thought about outsourcing it. This is confusing. This is so confusing for all you guys because nothing is really set out or scoped out in clear terms. This is the evolving of the cloud and mobile that's just overwhelming everybody. So I'm going to try to get you guys through this, and I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to go through the beginning to the end, keep it to an hour, and then deal with questions because I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions. So anybody that wants to get something to eat, help yourself because, like I said, we've got tons of food and tons of time here to get through this. If you don't understand anything, you guys will get it immediately, but everybody's going to get this released in a couple weeks so you can rewatch it. All right, so today we're going to cover what cloud computing is in simple terms because it is very, very complicated. And does it have instant disaster recovery? And can it increase your productivity and lower your IT costs? Because if you can't do those 2 things, don't do it. We're going to look at the pros and cons of choosing cloud computing over the server in the closet for your next network upgrade or refresh. To us as IT guys, we don't care where it is. It's more of a matter of what you guys want to do and the cost. How to choose the right mobile device for you and your employees to work remotely. I'm not going to tell you to choose an Android or a Windows or an iOS device, but I'm going to tell you what the pros and cons are of each one. This is a big one for anybody that knows me, policies and procedures. We have a lot of this stuff on the customer knowledge base and nobody takes advantage of it. So I'm going to go through with cloud and mobile and show you people that did not take advantage of it. Some of them have been in this room and are local, so you're going to be surprised at that. Then we're going to go through the legal issues that you're introducing to your business with mobile computing and how to eliminate that risk. I mean, how many people here are already using mobile devices in the business? I know everybody has a mobile device. That's clear. You guys are, if you check email, if you check company email, you're using a mobile device. If you have a company-issued device, you're using a mobile device. If you reimburse your employees for a cell phone, then that brings it into the company. But how many, okay, not too many people are using it. Of the people that are using it, do you really think you have them locked down the way you're supposed to? No, because like, do you feel comfortable that you're not going to get sued, that you're not going to wind up with, personal information on the device if it gets lost? Do you have policies, procedures in place? You do? Good.
No, we don't.
Oh, well. Yeah. That's fine. Well, that's why we're here. That's part of the thing that we're going to go. And I think a lot of you guys are going to be surprised because I picked cases specific to this state. How many people are actually looking to do an upgrade soon? We all know that everything has to be upgraded. So every 5 years, this stuff is usually replaced because that's how accountants depreciate stuff over a 5-year period. So whether you do an upgrade or not, after 5 years, you're really starting to think about it. And that's really what we're going to cover and see how the cloud and mobile fits in if you even want to fit it in. Because some of it's really scary. We're actually redoing our cloud and mobile next month. Now, a lot of that has to do with the changes in the laws on overtime and the changes on what's going on locally. But we're revisiting all that here. We're changing phones. We're changing the way we do it. So it's something that everybody has to do. And when we decide what we're going to do, we post everything on the customer knowledge base. So you'll have our policies. You'll be able to see what we decided to do. And last, we're going to answer any questions. So this is going to be long. And like I said, it is confusing. So I'm just going to try to get through it. And then at the end, I'll stay as long as you guys want to. I can sit here all afternoon and answer anybody's questions. I kind of went with this because I remember when we first saw The Matrix, me and my wife saw it in '99, and I remember her saying that was the most confusing movie I've ever seen. And that's how I feel this topic is. Like I said, there was part of me that wanted to outsource it to one of our cloud providing vendors, but I can't do that and then have you guys use it as training. And I think I'm better. I'm going to look out for you guys because I'm not selling you anything. We're a reseller. We are not a seller. So, like I said, I'm going to try to free your mind. And really, the only thing I want to come out today is I want you to be smart, strategic, and intentional about it. If you're not making a decision that's going to maximize profits and boost productivity and fuel growth, you're making a bad decision. IT is supposed to do all that stuff. The thing that I know I talk to you guys all about all the time is personally, I want to significantly reduce your exposure to risk. Because if something happens to you guys, that takes an effect on us. Without you guys, we're not here. And I want you guys to not take a random approach to the way that mobile and cloud seems to be coming into the businesses. You guys know that we did webinars and we did go to meetings, and then we did lunch and learns. We never combined the lunch and learns and the webinars together. And the reason is because it's actually not that easy to do it live, to broadcast it. But a lot of people that wanted to use this room wanted to be able to do that. So it's easy to do if you have a lot of money. It's difficult to do it the way we did it on a shoestring budget, but we got it to work. This is our second one. So anybody that wants to come here and train employees, now you know it's a proven concept. Because if we do something twice, we think, we're kidding, but we think it's done. But I sit through a lot of these things, so I want everybody to hang on the end because we have a lot of people that are watching the webinar. We're going to give you guys a lot of stuff. This is only a preview of what we're going to give you. If you hang out to the end, I'm going to tell you everything that's available. But these are the highlights of it, and there's a lot of savings here at the end that we're going to have a very short time of offering them. So anybody, I think I know pretty much everybody here, but I don't know everybody on the web, so I'm going to go through a little bit about network concepts. Even some of the guys that I know and I've known for years don't know everything that we do. We established ourselves in 2004 to kind of be a complete IT solution provider, and that's really our goal. Our goal every day is to look what we can do to help you guys out to where you don't have to deal with IT in any way. We specialize in small to mid-sized businesses. The biggest distributor in the world for technology is Ingram Micro. The second biggest is Tech Data. Ingram Micro in 2012 put us on the top 200 SMB resellers in the country. Well, that's a big thing because HP came out and visited us after we got on that list. And they were like, how are you guys on this list because our corporate office is in Souderton. We're way far away from Philadelphia and Allentown. So that's a big deal, but that's how much we put into designing solutions for the SMB market. We have a really deep understanding of IT. We are not an accounting firm. A lot of the guys around here that do IT are accounting firms, and they have an IT guy, and they schlep them off on you. We are the total opposite. We are an IT company with one accountant. Jessica's a CPA, but she works mostly on our stuff. She'll help you guys out with QuickBooks stuff. She's the only accountant we have. Everybody else here is technical or administration. And we try to build value into everything we do. Like I said, this whole location here was built by requests from you guys. Everything down here is a request from customers. We have full-time web development now. If you go into the back, a lot of people wanted to do videos, and they wanted to do videos cheaply because a web video is not a TV video. So we put that together for you guys. This room, people use this room, up to including dimming the lights in this room. We had somebody using the room, and they said, hey, I really want to be able to dim the lights. Now, at the time, I didn't know that was going to be that expensive, but we will do anything within reason that you ask us to do that has to do with technology. Providing, like I said, it's in reason. Sometimes I say, yeah, we'll do it, and I find out later that it's probably was a little bit more expensive than we should have, but if it's within reason, you know, we'll kind of do it. And including these seminars. We specifically, we're restructuring these seminars, and we're releasing a free training video just to help you guys with those forms. And if you guys get those forms, send them to me. I'll help you guys with them, because I know I've seen a lot of them where you guys are filling these forms out and it asks you who's doing what, and you say, well, I don't really know, so I'm going to write down network concepts, which is fine, but there's certain things we don't do. Like a lot of people put us in as application service provider. We don't do that. So you have to be careful when you're filling out all these new forms that are coming out. They really got complicated this year. A lot of you guys are going to see them next year. Asking questions are free. So, you know, if you have a question, make sure you ask before you do it. But let's get started. Like I said, this is a long road on this whole cloud thing, and it's very confusing. And I think the news makes it even more confusing with all the scary stuff that they have going on. But this goes back to October 30th, 2005. So one of the world's wealthiest billionaires wrote in an urgent memo to his top engineers, the most trusted management team, and it sounded the alarm that a very disruptive wave was about to wash over the IT industry, changing the way we get information and use technology. Plus, this change also threatened his $200 billion business that he had spent his life building. So at the same time, on the Columbia River, a mysterious company known only as Design LLC was secretly constructing two massive 34,000 square foot windowless warehouses on top of the fiber optic network backbone. And this was codenamed Project 2. So when you see stuff like this popping up 10 years ago, it raises some eyebrows about what's going on. The local paper labeled these things as an information age nuclear power plant. As you can see, this is from the cooling vents. But you can imagine something like that popping up in a town, and the company's name's Design LLC, and it's Project 2. You'd think that was something like Black Ops or something. So what are we talking about? Or who are we talking about? Microsoft and Google. Bill Gates actually wrote that letter to his team at Microsoft because Google was building those huge power plants in the middle of the country. What are we talking about? Cloud computing. That's where it started 10 years ago. So this is not web. Web's been around for a long time, and I think that's the confusing part. Cloud computing wasn't even called cloud computing back then. It's not in the memo. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but the Microsoft marketing machine, that's one thing they're good at, Windows 95 and everything. They really put that term out there. But if we look at these plants that are popping up, it's unbelievable, the cost and the infrastructure that they're putting into it. The thing is we don't know where these things are because they are top secret. Like when you have a Design LLC name and Code 2 is the project name, the one that we know a lot about is the Apple plant in North Carolina. And the reason we know a lot about that is because they gave a tour to the Today Show, because they were bragging about their green energy approach. None of the other ones you can't even get into, and half of them we have no idea where they are. So I just wanted you guys to see this so you realize the amount of money that's been pumped into the cloud. So this is a 500,000 square foot building, which means Google's 34,000 square foot seemed like nothing. So you could fit that whole thing in there. You can see here they're building an array of solar, bio generators are here, stations. But you can see these things are popping up everywhere. If you see windmills, you kind of know that there's a cloud infrastructure because they use so much electricity and they generate so much heat. But Apple right now that we know of operates data centers in Oregon, North Carolina, California, and Nevada. And they also lease space. So they lease space off of Amazon. Recently, this past week, they started moving everything over to Google. We have no idea why they're doing it, but what we do know is because they are a public company that they're investing $3.9 billion, not million, $3.9 billion into new data centers to build across the globe. We know that Google has, I think, 12 data centers. And the reason I say I think, because these things are super secret. So we know of 12 significant Google data centers, which are these things right here. They kind of build them all the same. And we know that Amazon is the leader in cloud. They have it down pat. They were building this stuff out before anybody. That's how you get Netflix. That's how you get a lot of your applications, is through Amazon. People don't know it. We know Amazon has 30 data centers that we know of. Now, it could be more. So we know all the big players there except for one. There's one guy that wrote that memo that we have no idea about, and that's Microsoft. Microsoft's official answer, it's on their website, and I actually emailed them preparing for this. Their official answer for their 365 and Azure things: as a standard policy, Microsoft does not disclose the precise locations of its data center. This is word for word. You can go read it yourself. Microsoft operates between 10 and 100 data centers located around the world. Now, I've been in one, and I'm sworn to super secrecy, no cameras. They check you out. They give us kind of a tour to pump it up. Since they chose 10 and 100, and I know Microsoft pretty well, I'm going to say they're closer to 100. I'm going to say they're actually probably at 99.5, because if they weren't, they wouldn't have chose 100. Now, the Microsoft data centers are much smaller. This is, I think, and I think the industry agrees, this was a huge mistake. If you build a lot of them smaller for the business world, this is great for the iPod world and the music sharing world and the web world, not great for business. And Apple doesn't really, they're not really investing in business. They make their money off of the app situation and the private thing. Google, kind of the same thing, that very big data centers, not a lot of them. So we'll see what happens. Microsoft now is somebody that you really got to reckon with, that's probably going to go against Amazon with over 100 of these things. But you can see this is a picture of that data center, because we know where this one is. This was taken, I got this off of Google Maps right before this. I couldn't even fit the solar cloud or the solar panels inside the picture. You can see here's the original building, here's the biogenerator. We have no idea what they're doing here or what Apple's actually doing. So these things are gigantic, and they have weird names. I flipped this around, but if you lived out here, it's like E-Light Electric Services, 100 acres. All this does is feed this. So it's really something that's reshaping the architecture of our world. And if you get into one, you'll see they're really like going into a government base. This one, E-Light Electric Services. This is really all one big campus for Apple. Had they not gone on to the Today Show, we would have no idea what this was, because who would know E-Light Electric Services is Apple? We'd have no clue. They were bragging about it because they have reached 100% renewable energy across all their data centers. This is a big building. I mean, you figure this sucker's loaded with servers. The heat generated off of it's got to be tremendous. So now we know what's going on. We know these things are popping up. So if you see one, you won't be terribly disturbed. And they're going to get worse. I mean, there's billions of dollars going into these things. But let's go back and look at IT, because I think that this is important. I was around in the late 80s when I started working and doing stuff. And that was mainframe technology. Mainframe technology developed into client-server technology, which is what a lot of us have now. That was Novell. Anybody that remembers Novell was huge back then. They came into that, and then Microsoft came along and wiped them out, really because Novell got greedy. Novell is nowhere to be found. So talk about a company that was huge that is gone. We went from the client-server to web apps. Now, web apps are different than cloud. So web apps started to come along. Now we get into the mobile apps. Mobile apps really became popular, in the last 10 years, where you're on your phone or your tablet and you can run applications. The next part of this is what we consider the cloud, is going to be on-demand metered grid usage, where all your processing power is going to be in the cloud, and then you're going to run it on these little apps. This is very similar to the way it was on the mainframe. That is exactly how the mainframe worked. So in a way, this almost should be a circle, because this is all, I kind of keep going back to the Matrix thing, because I know this is confusing. In the Matrix, this has all happened before type of thing, and that's what's going on now. We're actually making a huge circle and going back to this technology because we're able to do it now through the internet and release it to everybody. Back then, I don't know if a lot of you guys were around, this was serial cable, so it was not possible to release this to everybody. It wasn't until TCP/IP came out that we could do distributed technology. So that I added this in there just so, because we might be taking the circle again. We don't know if we're going to go back to a different technology with client server. I can tell you Windows Server 2016 is moving back up to here. It's not fully, it hasn't done it, but there is a lot of indication that this will go to here, and then we will start going back through the thing again. But let's get into the serious stuff. Is what are the key drivers for you guys to even invest in this or make the decision to do it? We go over this a lot, but here's the reality. Over half of SMBs globally support a mobile workforce. That's a huge driver. 43% of the employees work from more than one locations. I mean, if you look here, this building is a satellite office of our main location. So this is one of the biggest drivers. The other thing is people want to work on phones, on phablets. They want to work at home. They want to work, believe it or not, smartwatches, even though they're not taking off. TV screens, even though they're not taking off. All this stuff, people want to be able to work everywhere. SMBs purchased 97 million devices in 2013, and that's expected to grow to 147 million devices in 2018. So if SMBs are purchasing this stuff, they're going to want to be able to use it. We talked about that. We had an event here with Microsoft for Windows 10 about what their outlook is, and they concentrate a lot on that with Windows 10. And the other thing is the enterprises want to be able to enable employees to collaborate anywhere and get their apps from anywhere. So if you're on a plane or working on, not on a plane because you don't have internet, but if you're at the airport, you have free internet or you're doing this stuff, the enterprises want you to be able to work. Why? Because it's good for business. There's no downtime. I mean, you can work from anywhere, anytime. The other trend that's pushing the benefit is that the cloud part of it, PCs are becoming device agnostic. So the cloud's giving you the ability to collaborate real time anywhere you want to be by putting apps and hosting it in the cloud. It's not in the closet anymore. It's up there for anybody to gain access to. So this is all the things that are driving the decisions that you're going to make going forward. Now, this is the complicated part. What is cloud computing? Like I said, the reality is all you guys are probably using some sort of cloud computing or mobile devices. And the reason that this is so complicated is, like when we did the security thing, that's in the Code of Federal Regulations, and it's there. So we know what every piece of it is. The government asked the National Institute of Standards and Technology to come up with a definition for the cloud, which is normal. That's how we, as an industry in IT, that's how we tell you guys what to do. So the NIST started its final draft, and it begins why cloud computing can mean and does mean different things to different people. That's a problem. That makes it very confusing. Also, what you're going to see on your insurance forms next year is a lot of the insurance forms, and anybody that has a Hartford, you're going to see Web 2.0. Web 2.0 does not refer to any technical specifications. So when you put something on an insurance form that has no technical definition, it creates a lot of problems. So I'm going to try to explain this very simply on what the cloud is going to be by the industry leaders, even though it's not defined yet. And I'm going to try to do it without getting too technical, because if I logged on to Amazon and showed you guys that stuff, we'd be here all day. The industry believes that this is the best way to explain what cloud computing is going to be, and it's called the big switch, rewiring the world from Edison to Google. And they kind of make a statement that it's going to be like a utility, like we flip the lights on and off here. That's what cloud computing is going to be, and it already is that way, actually. If you have a true cloud platform, you pay for it as a utility. And they're comparing it to the way people generated power back in the day. This is Burden's wheel. You can see this thing is huge. This is how people and businesses powered their businesses back before electricity was invented. And this hydropower does not mean electricity, but they had to maintain all this stuff. This thing, the ironworks is still there. This thing has rotted away and gone to nothing. But this is an immense amount of stuff to maintain. And what they're doing is they're comparing this behemoth, which put out 500 horsepower. This thing was 60 foot high. They're comparing that to your server in the closet. Because basically you guys do have to maintain stuff as far as what's going on there. The one good thing that came out of this, and it's kind of a side note, the guy that invented the Ferris wheel went to school and walked by this thing every day. So even though this is extinct, this is where the Ferris wheel came from. New York. Yeah, it's Burden Iron Works. The building's still there. They still own it. You can actually take a tour. But this guy was renowned for inventing this thing. This is how stuff was powered back then. It was hydropower. They made horseshoes, and they had to maintain this. Once electricity came along as a utility, companies stopped doing this. This thing was rotted away and gone. And it's not the cost of this, it's the cost of maintaining this, of having people maintaining the space, to maintain the wheel. And they're basically saying that's what server technology is going to be. You're going to be able to turn it on and off and pay for it like a utility so you can do your business. And it's going to be cheaper. It's not really there yet. We can go through the numbers and I can show them to you for your environment, but eventually this is how it's going to be. So this is kind of a metaphor for all your servers in the closet, that's what they feel they're going to be, abandoned and rusting outside. But don't throw them outside because they have to be recycled. So, like I said, the same technology revolution is happening today. We live in a world driven by apps. You don't necessarily need a server in the closet to do this, to get an app. The trend towards cloud and mobile computing is the fastest shift in consumer behavior in the last 40 years. And we compare it to the 80s and 90s and the internet boom. Does everybody remember the gateway boxes? Like in the 90s, yeah, they were on it was one Christmas, everybody had a gateway box. Another company that's gone. So if we look at that, that was 800 million PCs were sold in that time period. And that was from 81 to 2000. Now, it started off really slow. Obviously, in the 80s, it was not very popular. I had a computer in the 80s, and I know a lot of people did. Apples were popular, but we had that boom of gateways everywhere. They just flooded the market. So with that going on, the adoption of cloud and mobile is going at 4 times the speed, which is huge. Okay, of the 250 million people in the U.S. over the age of 14, it's estimated that 235 million of them have a mobile device. Now, we absolutely know this is true because AT&T is looking to get into different avenues. The reason that they're looking to get into different avenues is the growth rate of this is down to 3%. So if you want to make money, you're not selling cell phones in the United States. You're replacing them. When everybody has something, there's very little growth rate. So that's a key driving force to say, hey, if everybody's got this, what can we do to communicate with them? The last thing is most software companies are moving towards a cloud-based software as a service model, which has a 6 times faster growth rate than traditional software licensing. So software as a service, even though you guys might not be seeing it, it's out there and its growth rate is huge. I mean, we all know, I'm not a big social media user, but
I pulled up some images for you.
That was Cortana. There you go. I mean, that's a perfect example. That recognized my voice and misunderstood what I was saying and pulled up stuff for me. Yeah. But you guys wake up, you have an iPad or a mobile device, and people are checking their emails, people are checking out social media. This is part of the world, and that's all mobile cloud-based work. So it's a big thing that's going on right now, and the shift towards what you guys are doing. Even if you're not using it internally, you might want to communicate with your customers or people in general. So you are going to go this way. All right. How does it work is the confusing part. And what is a cloud app versus a web app? That's also a confusing part because it's going to be on your insurance forms. Like I said, you're going to see Web 2.0 on your insurance form. So it's important for you guys to know what is a cloud app and what is a web app, because there's application service provider is also on there. But I'm back to the matrix, and I can't show you the cloud because we would be here all day, and you guys would be really mad at me because it's boring and it's complicated. So I'm going to try to make this as simple as I can with describing the two. Basically, a web app is delivered by a web server. So if you go and get an application, and I don't care what the person is telling you about it, look at the back end. If it is hosted on a web server, it is a Web 2.0 app. The problem is people are, because cloud is not defined, people are selling web apps as cloud apps, and they're charging a ton of money for it. The reason that cloud apps are so expensive, this is the most basic layout I could find of a cloud without getting too complicated. We have web apps now, you guys know. So if somebody downloads something on a WordPress site, puts it on a web server, that is a Web 2.0 app. Now we have the cloud. This is a basic cloud platform. If you go onto Amazon or Azure or Google, you will provision servers, you will provision virtual desktops, you will provision your software platform, your applications, and your storage. Now there's a lot more to it that I'm not showing you. There's infrastructure as a service and all sorts of other stuff, but this is the basics of it. If you are paying for this stuff as a utility and you have access to all this stuff back here, so you can see what's going on, so when you turn stuff on and off, you're paying for utility pricing, that's a cloud app. Software providers, software as a service providers, write applications. They will also provide it to you, but that will be a fixed fee. Like when we're here, when I turn off these lights, I pay less. So if that was a utility, I would be a cloud app. If I paid the same amount for electricity, no matter if I had the lights on or off, that would be a software as a service application, and that's how you can really tell the difference about what you're getting. And like I said, if you have any questions, ask us. We will look at this stuff and we will tell you what you're getting. Normally, I don't like getting involved in this stuff, especially with website developers, because some of them are friends of mine, but they are taking this cloud term way too far about what they're giving people, and they're charging too much money. So that's it in a nutshell on what is cloud, SaaS, and web-based. And you can see here, remember how we talk about how did cloud computing come along? I just want to do this real quick. This picture of this cloud has been around forever. That's how they adopted cloud as a term, because this always represented the internet. The other thing is utility as a price point, where you guys will, you're probably wondering, okay, well, cloud, like, why does that make sense versus SaaS? The reason that cloud is a utility pricing is because we know they have data centers all over the world. So if they have a European data center that Europe's not using, they will then turn that processing power on for you guys to use. And that's how we get the utility pricing, because it's a fixed fee for AWS. They're selling it to businesses that are using it at certain times, which anybody that knows about the whole Google controversy with Edward Snowden knows what Google was doing was not only using the processing power, they were moving the data across the data centers. So we all know what the data centers look like. Now, this hasn't been proven, so I can't say that it's 100%. This is an accusation that the way that the NSA got that data from Google, any information that passes in across the borders, the NSA gets a copy of. So when Google decided to take all your email and revolve it around the world, the NSA then, that's where they got a copy of it. That's where you're seeing the big rise. A lot of the comedians are talking about pictures and stuff like that. That was basically because of cloud computing. Now, they don't do that anymore. Microsoft said they never did it, because you can see here the storage is separate. So Google should have never done that. But remember, Google is an advertising agency. They make their money off of ads. They are not into selling to businesses. They give away your Gmail stuff. It's free. They don't make any money off of it. They make their money off of doing the ads. So they didn't even think about, taking your stuff all the way around the world. And different businesses, don't really care. Some people don't care, some people do. It's up for debate. But Google always shoots itself in the foot for making decisions that they really didn't have to make because they've got a ton of money. They develop stuff that, they started this whole thing. And I think they started it just to have fun. They don't care about making money off of it. But they started this race. All right. Now we kind of get what the cloud is, where it's going to, and we know everybody probably has the traditional network. So the cloud benefits are obviously cost because there's no cost, especially capital expenditure versus operational expenditure. Device agnostic, IT support costs are a heck of a lot lower, especially if you're building into a utility. Anywhere, anytime, built-in disaster recovery. That's up for debate because if you're doing a true cloud platform, I didn't put that up on the last slide, that's an additional thing. So be careful if you go on to AWS and you decide to build this yourself. I've built these things. It's just like building a physical network, but it's virtual, so you have to really know what you're doing. But the biggest thing is pay for what you need for utility pricing because you're able to spin stuff up very quickly. Like if we want to do something, we use virtual servers and we're able to spin stuff up very quickly. We're able to recover you guys very quickly. And a lot of you guys know that if you were at the data stuff, if you were involved in the disaster recovery. That's all virtual technology. Mobile benefits, easy. Easy to work, out of the office, cheaper, BYOD. Everybody's got one. Why not use it? So now we're here, we know everything about the cloud, we know everything about the devices. Here's the SaaS part of it. This is where we started out. And there's no bigger battle in SaaS than Google Apps, which has renamed itself to G Suite because they really have been they kind of started off great and then kind of messed things up, so they rebranded it. But this has turned really into the holy war for businesses to decide. Because every small business is not going to be able to build this out. They are going to have to use SaaS for these two because these two have made it virtually impossible for you not to do it. If you decide to go to the cloud, a small business can't not use these SaaS applications affordably. It would just be stupid not to. So when G Suite came out, it really won over the cloud forward organizations. This was revolutionary because they gave you all of your Office applications for $5. Everybody knows how much Office costs. They gave you storage on the internet. They gave you business class email. They later gave you some more features, which is still this way today, for $10 a month per user. That is incredibly cheap. So if you're a startup, when you don't have a lot of capital expenses, this was a very easy way to get in. You'll see this in a lot of schools, universities, newspapers, anybody that doesn't have any sort of security concerns, this is a great way to go. You can run off of Apple, you can run off of Linux, you can run off of pretty much anything you want to for $5 a user a month. And I mean, you get Gmail, not the Gmail that gets hacked. You get business Gmail, Hangouts, Calendar, Drive, Docs, Sheets, Forms, Slides, Sites, and then for the $10 you get administration and Vault. So for $5 more, you get 2 more things that you'll probably never use or care about, but still, they have those options out there. The biggest downfall with those applications is they're not really easy to use, especially, in my opinion, Excel. People that use Excel love Excel. So now you have Bill Gates and his boys very quickly catching up. They're actually caught up. They have more data centers. This is an even neck-and-neck race. But unlike Google, this is what I consider the kitchen sink. They have tons of stuff. And they go all the way down to the $5 price point. You can actually go under the $5 with Office. I'm sure they're losing money on it, but to compete with Google, they have a $4 option. They also have all of the Office suites. Office Online is free. So now you're kind of in between this with these two giants working it out. I mean, they have so much stuff on here that I don't even know what it is. They have Yammer and Sway. I'm a Microsoft partner. I know what it is, realistically, but that's what I was saying about these guys are just throwing anything that will stick out there for you to buy as a utility, and it is cheaper than running it on your own because you get the desktop version. That's the biggest difference. Gmail is online. They have limited desktop versions. This one as a service, you also get to download it. But here's where the big difference is, the hybrid cloud. And the reason that's a big difference is because of security. G Suite Directory and Azure Directory do not have the security needed for a lot of people in the IT world to feel comfortable with that. So depending on the regulations, depending on what you're doing, Microsoft is really outpacing G Suite where it comes to this. Not only is it security, but if you have an investment in existing technology, the hybrid solution is now taking over the world. It is built in. SBS is gone. There is no SBS anymore. If you're a small business and you want to save money, you're forced into the hybrid cloud solution. Forced is a strong word. If you want to save money, they are forcing you into hybrid cloud. Other than that, they're going to make you build out a huge deployment to house this stuff and have it. But this is really a good solution that taking advantages of both worlds rather than trying to use G Suite. The only way that G Suite will come into this hybrid world is you're going to have to pay someone a lot of money to develop a on-site authentication on Linux, and it's very complicated. It's complicated because someone's going to have to maintain it. So we have hybrid cloud, and this is Microsoft's big push, and what it does is enterprise quality security for the SMBs. So it's really a strange world that's going on out there, and like I said, you guys are going to be pushed to this whether you like it or not. But now that we went through all that stuff, here's the problem. Now we've got everybody out there. You guys are probably like, yeah, I'm going to build a cloud solution and save money and mobile devices. I'm not going to buy workstations. Here's the problem with all that. And this is just the headlines from the last 10 days, and this happens every 10 days. I get a lot of questions on that, but this one was quiet. Google, the Gmail Man video, I brought that back because it cracks me up. They just went back to this. And that used to really irritate people. I don't know if you guys saw the Gmail Man video. We'll play it again if you guys want to see it. But that really made people mad. That's how their data is going to be tracked. And you can see it now. If you start to cruise the web right now, you can see in Google to where they are tracking you. They are not looking at cookies anymore. They are placing ads according to your Gmail login. So that's something that you have to consider with going to the cloud. This was a huge thing around here. This affected the East Coast, the major denial of service attack. Now, us in the IT industry, we did not think this was a big deal. Does anybody know why? It does happen every day. 2,000 of them, 2,000 of them happen a day. This specific one was known about for a long time. So the news kind of took it and, oh, your toasters are attacking the internet on the East Coast and knocking it out. This was not a surprise to anybody. Everybody knew about this vulnerability and everybody knew about this application. The application was called Miria. But the fact is, I'm not telling you guys to do this. Here's the facts. If you want to buy a denial of service attack, you can buy one for $150. It will last a week on the black market. So that was not this big news. I don't know if it got traction because of the election or because of what's happening on there. That happens all the time. It happens every day in different parts of the world. I think we saw it mostly because it affected our area. It had nothing to do with anything else in the world. This was well known. People are plugging things in all the time. The problem with this is when they're plugging them in at home, they're not monitored. So they get infected, and then they're able to execute denial of service attacks. The last thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about John Podesta or politics, because Colin Powell was also a member of it. The DNC was also a member of it. The Gmail hack. There was no actual Gmail hack. So what you hear in the news is not true. So when you guys leave here, if you don't learn anything else, you got a tidbit of information. John Podesta and Colin Powell gave Gummy Bear, or whatever the Russian hacker is, I forget his name, Fancy Bear, his username and his password through a Bitly account. I do not consider that hacking. I consider that social. Us in the IT industry, we consider that social engineering. The real part of it is they were both stupid. They did something that was very, very stupid. That does not necessarily mean that it's hacking. Everybody does stupid things all the time, whether they're employees, even IT guys who do stupid stuff. So now you know that the Russians and the Koreans are not these technological giants. Their technology is old. They're not doing anything. A 12-year-old could duplicate a Google site. There's nothing on it. So all you have to do is trick someone into going to the Google site. Gmail's very susceptible because your username is your email address. You start entering that stuff in, they build a database. So try not to use that free account for business, and you won't have that problem. I'm sure John Podesta, Colin Powell, and a lot of other people wish they were here, but it's too late for them. So you guys don't do it. So now that we've gone through the past 10 days, let's get into what's really going on and has been going on for a while. And these laws are going to change December 1st. This is part of what we're dealing with. I'm sure a lot of you guys are dealing with this. As we build out these mobile computing solutions on the cloud, we have to look at lawsuits as they obtain to overtime. Everybody knows December 1st, the overtime rules are changing. Regardless of the money, I think it's under $50,000 a year. That does not mean that employees are allowed to work all the time. There's things in that law that classify employees. So you have to be very careful. This is a case where police officers sued because, and they have a good point. They were checking email nonstop. Should they get paid? Should they not get paid? The problem is this goes to a jury. So you have to be very careful when you're building this stuff out. Here's the other thing. This has to do with the cell phones. Everybody drives around here. People are stupid. They text all the time. You see people driving down the middle of the street. So if it's a company-owned device, whose fault is it? I can tell you in Pennsylvania, because this happened here, Smith Barney, which is an investment banking firm, paid $500,000 to settle a lawsuit because they probably thought they were going to lose. One of the agents was driving and talking on the phone and killed a motorcyclist. That's something to consider if that cell phone's company-owned. Now, in Minnesota, the exact opposite happened. The jury said, no, that's not the company's fault. That's common sense. She shouldn't have been on the phone. But it does go to a jury, and you're not going to know what's going to happen. In Corpus Christi, Texas, it went really in a weird way. $21 million was awarded by a woman who was struck by a Coca-Cola truck driver who was on her cell phone. And now Coca-Cola is a big company. They had a policy that said, hey, don't talk on your cell phone. It's stupid. The problem was their policy was vague and ambiguous. That's what the jury said. The jury awarded that. That was not a settlement. And that's what you want to avoid. When you go to a jury, you don't know what's going to happen. Settlements, you kind of have control of. I'm going to talk about this one a little bit later. We talked about this in security, but I'm going to bring it up at the end. But that was another settlement that happened. So these are all I gave you all the good stuff. Now this is all the bad stuff. This is one that you guys have heard me talk about. I was going to stop talking about this, and I really was going to stop talking about the Gmail man because I talk about it all the time. But I can't stop talking about this, and you're going to find out why. This was a hospice that lost a laptop. Now, they lost the laptop. It had nothing to do with identity theft, nothing to do with HIPAA. The guy didn't even know it was had anything to do with HIPAA. And they recovered the laptop. Very little information was on this laptop, and they got fined $50,000. The reason they got fined $50,000 was because they wanted to start to make an example of people. So keep that in mind as you're building this stuff out. You do not want to be made an example of. Even if you don't fall under any compliance, remember, there are state laws. State laws will go into effect even if you don't have any compliance. And the problem is most of you don't know what the state laws are. So you have to look them up and make sure that you understand what they are. I'm not going to go through this because we did it in security, but here's an example of a fine for breaking information. This is a lot of what happened at Sands up in the casino. They were very irresponsible, and they broke this law in Pennsylvania with their Web 2.0 employee app. We all know how that turned out. Not good for them. So you would think of me talking about this till the end of time to where I figure you guys don't even want to hear about it, that I would stop talking about it. Well, I can't because this just happened. The exact same thing. This was just a couple months ago. The funny part about this, now the health services wasn't here, but the Archdiocese of Philadelphia accounting people were here in this room talking about this stuff. So they should have known better. I know they're separate entities. This is a $650,000 settlement because an employee lost an iPhone. I know iPhones are expensive, but they don't cost $650,000. The problem with this is it's not because they lost the iPhone. Same thing with the last one. It has nothing to do with the laptop getting stolen. That's going to happen. Here's the problem. Now, and keep in mind, too, this was, if you can go online and look this up, this was recently. The OCR gave them a huge break because we know the Archdiocese, they do a lot of stuff. The health services does a lot of stuff with AIDS patients. They do a lot of good things. So they got a big break on this, but here's why they got the fine. Policies. Second thing, risk analysis. Two of the things that you have to do. So make sure you do them, and we make them cheap or free for you to do. Policies, anybody that's a customer here, we post new policies all the time, so make sure you have that covered. Because you can buy a lot of iPhones for $650,000, and if that's losing one, imagine what a big security breach would be. You just don't want to be made an example of. Here's the other problem that's going on with clouds. We had ransomware. Ransomware was attacking the desktops. People were going after desktops like crazy. They were encrypting stuff. They were charging a ransom. Not going to get into this a lot, but the FBI has advised everyone to cover up their computer webcams to stop them from being spied on. Computers don't have webcams, so what are they talking about? Mobile devices. Now, you can buy a webcam for a computer, but it's generally not possible. The reason that they're telling you this is because in Japan right now, there's some really bad stuff going on with ransomware. I'm not going to get into it a ton because we talked about it with security, but it has to do with pictures being taken and then the ransom being issued. What I can talk about that's happening in the States is we know this because this happened to a 12-year-old girl. When she had an Android phone, she clicked on the wrong thing. The phone locked. It loaded itself with child pornography, and it said, you will have to pay this fine or we will report you to the FBI. Now, they did the right thing. They went to the police. We all got it sorted out, not me, but the IT industry got it sorted out. What is it? What's going on? Which is what you're supposed to do. But if you're a politician or something, even though you did nothing wrong, you might second guess that. So attacks on mobile devices are becoming huge. They're targeting them faster than they're targeting PCs, and we all know about PC attacks. This is I threw this in here because it's absolutely amazing to me, and it does tie into the mobile world. In September 2014, the FBI issued a cybersecurity warning, which they do all the time. But cybersecurity warnings shouldn't be that, hey, your employees are going to rob you. That should be expected. I mean, you should know that, and it should have nothing to do with cyber. The reason the FBI issued it as a cybersecurity warning is because cloud and mobile computing. Now they are able to rob you because you're giving them all this stuff to work from home. So you have to look at that on what's going on. Do you care? I don't know. If you have intellectual property, you're going to care. I've been out to customers that the shade of a color is intellectual property that you would think is worth $1 bazillion. I don't know what they do, nor do I care. It wouldn't seem like a lot to me, but it's a lot to them. So we're introducing this. Employee theft has been around forever. For the FBI to say issue a cyber security warning on it, we're crossing the lines, and we're crossing the lines because of cloud and mobile. And here's the real problem with this thing, and this is how businesses go out of business, is shadow IT. Now that we're giving all this application freedom and giving people the abilities to work from everywhere, employees, does everybody know what shadow IT is? We talk about it a lot. Okay. Shadow IT is any application or other IT resource obtained or built by business users without the knowledge or approval of the IT department. So people, and I don't hate Dropbox. People think I hate Dropbox. I don't. They just made the news, so it's easy for me to grab the article. But if you bring in Dropbox or any of these file sharing apps and you share the wrong information, you can be in real trouble. The problem is as an IT department, because it uses the same technology as business apps now, because we're creating this free world, we don't even know it's there, so we can't protect you. So this is, we've went through all the good, now we looked at all the bad. We're going to get into mobiles a little bit, but I just want to summarize on this because this is the important stuff. This is the stuff that's going to get you. We're going to get into Android, Windows, iOS, which is best. But mobile threats outpace PC attacks, which we know about. They have slowed down in 2015, which is good. The problem is they're extremely nasty. They used to be kind of a joke on a mobile phone. A lot of people, you turn off your phone and turn it back on. If you look at this chart here, most phones can't be infected. I don't know if you guys know that or not. They run on what's called a sandbox operating system that started with Windows Mobile. Now, Windows Mobile was not widely adopted because it's not. It's no fun. Yeah, it's absolutely. If you're worried about security, you're going to have a Windows phone, but as a phone, it's terrible. It's like you miss out on everything. But they couldn't get infected. And now anybody that has an Apple, now you can talk about John Podesta and Apples. If you have an Apple, go to the store and try to buy antivirus. Apple did away with it. They won't even let you buy it because they took the same sandbox approach. So we have these. Google now, unfortunately, is the only one left that gets all the malware attacks. But Google is really working on that. They are really, this is an unfair chart. Even though it's accurate, they've really slimmed it down. So I actually had an Android forever until we did last time we switched. And I really liked it. I think Android is one of the better phones. I can tell you right now, we're on Windows phones and it's all business. There's no frills about it. It's great for business, but that's it. That's all you get out of those things. But Android has this open architecture, which they've always had because they stream ads into their stuff, which creates holes, but they are working to clean it up. But that really jolted them. Apple's very expensive, and they're getting 50% of the enterprise business, which is huge. So, I mean, let's get into which phones are which and what's going on. I don't want anybody to think that Google's Android operating system is bad because we talked about that a lot. These are just facts. But all the devices, I'm not even going to tell you which device to buy because depending on what solution you pick is going to depend on which device you buy. Obviously, if you go with G apps, you're probably going to look at Google, but there are ways to lock it down. But all the devices are slim and light now. I mean, everything is changing with mobile devices. Even the laptops are super thin, super light. They're fast responsive. They're designed for long battery life. This is the next big thing. I don't know if you saw us. We're moving to kind of this design with the techs. And it's because, they're fast, light, they're cloud-based, and we can get stuff signed. But no matter what you pick, I mean, you got TVs, Google Glasses, all this stuff, you have to make your decision about the apps. I mean, what apps are available to you, and then the features. We went with Windows phones. I hate it, but I'll tell you what, I can open up a PowerPoint and work on it. I can open up a Word document. I can open up an Excel document, and that's the architecture we use at work. Personally, I hate it. Probably one of the worst phones I've ever had because it does absolutely nothing. But as a business decision, is the business responsible for my entertainment? To play Pokemon Go? Probably not. Because you know what? You're never going to play Pokemon Go on a Windows device, phone. This is where you got to make a decision too, security. If you're a school, you don't have a lot of intellectual property. You don't have a lot to hide. I mean, if you look at a school, they're kind of publicly funded. If you want to know how much your principal's making, you got to call up and ask. Very little security concerns there. They can run on if you look at a lot of the schools around here, they are on the Google world, and there's a reason for that. The last thing you got to look at is selection. If you're really looking at phones, there's very little Windows phones out there. The most selection you're going to get is Androids. They have a ton. Apple and Microsoft, what do you have, like 4 choices? I think Apple's even getting less choices. I know Microsoft's cutting off their choices. We specifically scheduled this for today because it was thought that Microsoft was going to release the Surface phone yesterday. We were going to actually schedule this a week earlier because we wanted to, get away from the holidays, get this stuff over with. We said, all right, let's move it back a week to see if we get a new Surface phone, because that's the next thing that's coming. But like I said, it's all about the apps. It's all about what decision you're going to make. Now, this has nothing to do with your personal life. What you guys choose to work on, buy at the AT&T store has nothing to do with it. Some people aren't even buying devices. They're buying the SIM chip and they're buying the dual devices. But the bottom line is, no matter what you guys do, I think I've really beat this in, is you need to get a mobile device policy for your business. And you need an acceptable use policy too. You need a lot of policies, but coming out of here today, this is what I want you guys to do. And we have these on the customer knowledge base. I want it to cover who owns the device. Do you allow your employees to bring their own devices to work? Because that's a big risk. It's something you got to consider. Are you going to do website monitoring, what applications, games, all that other stuff, which I can tell you firsthand, if you don't want any of that to happen, buy a Windows now. Windows devices, they just don't have any available. There's nothing to put on. But can employees use the device for personal use? If so, how and when? Here's a big one. If the device is lost or stolen, who pays for the replacement? Because they're not monthly fees anymore. The government's forcing them out of that. You got to buy this stuff now. Which, if you notice, Amazon started selling mobile devices for next to nothing. They hooked up with Lenovo. They're selling like devices like crazy because they also want to sell you stuff. So if you want a cheap device that'll work on any carrier, go to Amazon. Can the employees legally work after hours? This is a decision you're going to have to make anyway as of December 1st, according to the classifications of their employment. Because just because they're exempt doesn't mean that they're exempt from overtime. That's the confusing part. We're not lawyers, so that's something you're going to have to work out yourselves. As far as helping you with the technology to enforce that, we can help you out with, but everything else you guys got to work out. Here's the thing. Driving these, when you hand these employees these things, you got to make sure that it's written out. Like, hey, you better not be driving and texting on that device. Use your own device. This isn't that popular anymore because you can't do it, but make sure they don't jailbreak or root the device. The only ones that I know of that you can do that to are basically the Androids. You can't do it on an Apple. And even if you do, there's stuff out there that they say you can do a Windows phone and an Apple phone, but it ruins the phone and they're easy to reset. So nobody is going to do that. Here's another thing that we talked about a lot. How are you going to report it if something does happen? We know from Target they reported it immediately, and I can't say that that was like the best decision in the world. And finally, what are the penalties for not following your mobile device policy? I can't tell you what to say the penalties are other than log it, because you really can't penalize someone for violating a policy, but you could after a certain amount of stuff's happening. But also, the written policy is not enough. You also need to lock the doors. So you need to put something in place to enforce this stuff. All the stuff we talked about, especially a kill switch. You want that in there. This, you kind of want it in there. It depends on how strong the policy is. Backing up the data. What all this is called is mobile device management. Remember I skipped over that $5.2 million thing that we talked about in security? The reason I took it back here was that was the International Paper Company. The surprising part about that case was that they had everything in place. What they did not have was mobile device management. So they chose to settle a case for $5.2 million, which was very surprising to us in the IT industry when you have all your ducks in a row but you're not enforcing it. So make sure you consider that. We have for you, it's included in NetWatch, iOS, and Android. The reason we do not include Microsoft is because Microsoft is built in. You don't need to buy it. If you have a Microsoft network and Microsoft phones, they are built in. Same thing if you have an Android network. If you are using G Suite and Google Clouds and you are using Android phones, that is built in. The problem is most of you are using Windows, so we put that into our monitoring stuff. Oops, I keep clicking forward. So this is only the beginning. I've outlined everything. There's a lot more questions that you guys have to do. Are you doing a network refresh? I know some of you said you were doing that. Is your network really secure now? How protected are you? Like I said, there's these cloud applications that are leaking in. Anybody that knows me is this backup thing. Are you being backed up, and can you get control of your data? That's why we offer a lot of backup solutions for you, because I've seen too many of you guys go out of business because you thought you were backing up and you weren't. That happens a lot more than you think. We do one of these things just about backup disaster recovery, if you want to know more about that. The other thing is, are you making the most cost-effective decisions regarding IT hardware and software? A lot of people just throw this stuff together and they're making bad decisions. And then we have to look at your risk tolerance before we do all this. So what we're going to do for you, remember I said in the beginning we're going to do this for you. We're going to do this, no strings attached. We're going to look at your stuff, and we're going to come out, and then we're going to meet with all of you to tell you where to go, because we don't want anything bad happening to you. I'd rather spend a couple hours with you guys now and say, hey, where are you going? We're going to do it for free. Dave's going to come out. He's going to do the inventory. Some of you, we already have your inventory. We're going to figure out where you are now. What do you want to be able to do? Because most people don't know what they want to do. They just start implementing these cloud and mobile solutions, and then we're going to give you a path to get there. So anybody that wants to do this, we're going to provide an action plan to get you through all this as a result of this seminar. Now, I know I'm going fast here, but we're kind of running out of time, and I'm going to hang out. We're going to get some questions. Anybody that knows me, I don't care what you do with the plan. You can take the plan and log on to AWS and build it yourself. You can have us do it. Or more importantly, you can opt to do nothing. But at least you'll know you'll have a plan in place. The other thing is, anybody that signs up that wants to do this, if you haven't had a security assessment, we'll do that for 50% off. If you're a Network customer, they're included. They're free. You don't have to worry about that. If you're a NetWatch customer, we also have your inventory. You don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff. We'll do it for free anyway. If you're not a NetWatch customer, we'll do the security assessment. If you are, just call us and we'll do it either way. The other thing that you guys know, we're really becoming closer and closer with Dato, because I like what they're doing for you guys, and they're local. A lot of you guys have met Christine. Her dad works right across the street at the beer shop down there in Colmar, so they are a local company. If you want to get away from the cloud sharing apps, they're going to give you a year for free for unlimited users. It's a good way to get into this because it's free, so you can actually see what you're going to do. You have some price points on there. If you want to do it, Christine's here a lot, but Jake knows a lot about it, so that's free. We've also got some great deals for ASCII with the Know Before Security training. If you're not under compliance, don't worry about it. We're going to work out a solution for you that should cover all your concerns. If you are under compliance, look at this, because this is a deal that might go away. I don't know. We are heavily involved in ASCII, but it is cheap, $1 per user per month. We are also going to discount Passportal at 50% off through ASCII. Now, if you were John Podesta or Colin Powell, and this was 6 months ago or a year ago, you would have wished you invested in Passportal. It's what we use internally. It is not for you guys to use personally. It is for business only. So if you want something, if you want to do it for personal stuff, LastPass is a very good solution. If you want to do it for your business, take advantage of that. Here's the problem is, we did this after the last seminar, and we still have not completed the requests. So we knew we were going to get a lot of requests on security. We're still working on it. The techs are not happy, so we're going to handle this down here with Dave, but it's only good till tomorrow at 5, just like the last offer was with security. If you want to do it, log on, tell us you want to do it, and we'll get it done. There's no obligation. You guys that know me, I never call you guys. I never try to sell any of you anything, and I'm not up here to do that now. This is just to make sure that everything is okay with your business. We do have recommendations that we're going to make, but we have to. That's not to sell you anything. So if you want to do any of this stuff, here's the cloud offer. We actually created this whole site to really address concerns that you guys have, that you guys felt that we weren't addressing, but it's all out there for you guys. If you want to take advantage of it, do it. I kind of threw this slide in here because I wanted to, kind of give you guys something to go away from, because you're going to have a You're going to have a copy of this. It'll be emailed to you, and everybody else will see it later. These are really your talking points. But I know that was confusing, and I know probably people have a lot of questions, and I feel like at the Oracle said, have a cookie and you'll feel right as rain, because I know how confusing it was for everybody. I hope you guys learned something. If you didn't learn anything, hey, at least you learned about the John Podesta email stuff, so you can take that home with you. But that's pretty much it. So if you guys have any questions, let me know, and we'll move on from there. Sure, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah. Our servers are in Souderton. That would be what would be considered a private cloud. We feed this place off of our servers in Souderton. Now, do we have Azure servers? Yes. Do we use them? No. We use them for test and development. AWS, to me, is very, very complicated to use. The reason that it's complicated to use is because of the utility pricing, and you have to constantly monitor it. So if you're building out a permanent solution, definitely go to AWS. If you're doing testing, go to Azure. So I feel bad, like I did wanted to outsource this to one of the, we have partners that do cloud. Actually, Google has called here a lot because we did a Windows 10 event, and I almost thought about just letting Google run with this, but I didn't want to because of the importance of it. If Google had come in here and run this, they wouldn't have given you the information that I gave you. So I really want you guys to fill out the feedback forms and let us know if this helped or not, because we can bring vendors in here to do certain things, and stuff that's not important to you guys, we don't want to waste your time doing, because we have to do quarterly events for your insurance firms, and we want the best ones to come out. So if you'd rather Google come out and do stuff like this, there's certain things we can't let the vendors do. We can't let the vendors do security because they have a vested interest. This one we probably could. They wouldn't give you the whole picture. They wouldn't say, hey, Microsoft's better than this or better than that. Just like when we do have the backup and disaster recovery, we do let Dado do it. Now, I tell them, anybody that's been to that, there's a condition that the vendors come in, is they're not allowed to sell you anything, and Dado's done a very good job of that. You guys have even asked Christine at the end, and I've been to every single one. She's like, I can't help you at this point, so she does try to do it educationally. And the reason that we let them do that one is because that's all they do. They just do backup and disaster recovery, so they're very, very good at talking about it. So, yeah, like I said, if you guys want to hang out, eat more, there's cookies and stuff. If you have questions or you want to sign up for anything, Jake has all the information. And we'll let the guys on the web go. And we kind of ended on time, which I was worried about. I should have stopped in the middle and maybe stopped for questions, but kind of worked out pretty good this way. Either I covered everything or you guys are just totally exhausted.
Yes, so,
You're not allowed to ask questions. You work here. Go ahead, bud.
the drivers in the cars, so did they get told because they were on work phones, or they talked about work issues?
Either or. It can be either or, because if you give Dave doesn't have a company phone. We said everybody had a company phone. We actually stopped that because of what's going on here. Dave doesn't have a company phone, nor do we reimburse Dave for a company phone for that simple reason. But before that, everybody that worked here had a company phone. We had no idea what they were doing. Now you're very limited on that. But if you have a company phone or you get reimbursed for a company phone, that we have a policy, no one is allowed at this company to give out their personal cell phone number. So the only way we can get sued is if a tech does it, which hopefully techs are smarter. If somebody is, yeah, hopefully, I mean, there's a big if there, but it limits our risks, and we talk to lawyers. Okay, you have an educated employee that's going to make an informed decision rather than just handing out cell phones like they're candy. But if you are reimbursing sales guys for phones or you're providing them, then yeah, you're going in front of a jury. And we saw right there, you don't know what happens in front of a jury. We've never been in front of a jury, but I know people that have. And as a business, it's scary. So that's something you have to consider. So I'm going to shut off the webinar because it looks like those guys are logging off anyway. And then we can hang out and eat. Like I said, I didn't eat yet, so.